Welcome to the City Council meeting tonight, City of Marshalltown. The agenda has been passed out. We're at the City Hall Council Chambers, which are at 10 West State Street. Today's date is June 8, 2020. Time is 5:30 p.m. And you're able to join us with your computer, tablet, or smartphone tonight while we're still social distancing with COVID-19. At this point, let me read a notice to the public, and that is as follows. The mayor and council welcome comment from the public during discussion of any of the agenda items. Step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Limit your time to present remarks for 3 minutes or less so that others may be given the opportunity to speak. Speak clearly and direct the comments to the mayor and city council, not to any councilor specifically. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond to specific questions and comments or to have staff respond during the meeting. We have now been called to order. With those present and able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Temporary Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Thompson.
Here.
Weirin.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
Gowdy.
Here.
Hoop.
Here.
Isom.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Very good. And now we're to item E, which is Mayor, Council, and Administrator comments. I know that we have one of the councilors who would like to make some comments. I have none tonight. None from our city administrator, so the floor recognizes Ms. Cahill.
Thank you, Your Honor. It has been an emotional time since we were last here in these chambers together. Our community has experienced a lot of pain. It started with the pain of those affected by the coronavirus, those who were ill, and those friends, families, and neighbors who died. Our hearts are with you. Our hearts are with the workers and the businesses of our community who lost jobs, were laid off, or who had to close their doors. The emotions of the economic impact of the coronavirus have also caused much pain. Finally, in the past weeks, we have been pained by the traumatic events surrounding the death of George Floyd and the systemic racism that has been brought to a head. These events have shaken me and many people to the core, and emotions are still very high. Through these tragic events, people have stepped forward to encourage discussion and understanding of the issues surrounding racism. I want to thank Allie Wenner, a strong young woman who organized a peaceful rally in Marshalltown along with the immigrant allies, and those who shared their experiences. Chief Mike Tupper for speaking out from the very beginning about the wrong that had occurred, and to all of those trying to understand how we can change to make our community a better place for our Black brothers and sisters. Black lives matter. We are at the very beginning, but I think the time is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well put. We're at that point where we could invite a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Roll call.
Weirin.
Yes.
Cahill.
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Hoop.
No.
Oh,
Sorry?
Sorry, removing number 8.
Oh, I did not know that.
I
Sorry.
apologize. Thank you.
Okay. Will the
Restart?
same
Yeah,
Well-
we should restart.
will the same people who moved and seconded agree to remove 8 and ask that
Gowdy
we
and
approve the rest of the
Weirin.
consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see the real city clerk here, and I should have.
Well, I just thought because I only had 30 days left.
You were the temporary.
How soon we forget, huh?
Kick me out the door.
I didn't.
Here we go.
When I asked the temporary clerk to read it, I was looking at our Jessica. Sorry about that.
Are you feeling the love right now?
I definitely am feeling the love.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I'm glad we don't have a big crowd here tonight.
Weirin.
Yes, again.
Cahill.
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Hoop.
No.
Isom.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, approved but -8. Would you read those that have been approved then, please, Madam Clerk?
Approve the May 26 minutes and bill list of $1,106,712.56. Appoint Mike Mason and Carol Hibbs to the Fisher Community Center Board. Approve new tree trimmer license for Joe Autumn, DBA Speedy's Lawn Care Services, and Jose's Tree Service, Jose Zamora. Receipt of the Civil Service Certified New Hire List for police new hires. Resolution approving facade grant for Big 8 Tire. Resolution approving an agreement with Iowa Valley Community College District for the operation of a government education cable television channel and community marketing. Skipping number 8. Number 9, resolution approving amended engineering services agreement for airport hangar project for Clapsettle Garber Associates, an increase of $53,836. Resolution approving amended engineering services agreement for the airport terminal project for CGA, increase of $107,600. Resolution approving amended engineering services agreement for airport vault project for CGA, an increase of $39,400. Resolution to approve federal grant agreement number 3 to construct hangar phase 2 for the Marshalltown Municipal Airport project.
Thank you. And let's go back to number 8. Would you read that one for us, please?
Number 8, resolution approving contract change order for the water pollution control digester cleaning, which should be modified to read an increase of $52,275.
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Good evening, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. Yes, we had an error in our original resolution in the packet for the decrease of $56,000, which was a communication problem on our end. The resolution actually would be for an increase of $52,275.20, which is still an error in the heading of the resolution I see. Which brings the total contract to $108,275.20. If you remember, this is for the cleaning of our digester, I believe number 1 at the water pollution control plant. The $56,000 was based on an estimate of the cubic yards needed to be removed from that facility. The $108,275.20 is based on the actual cubic yardage of material removed from the digester. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any? I can't imagine public comment on this one, so let's just take a vote.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to item G, and that's resolutions. Madam Clerk, could you read the first one of those, please?
We have a tentative resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title to the property described from the city of Marshalltown to the winning bidder. This is relating to the auction that was held Saturday, and the winning bidder is Kathy Thompson and David Thompson, $172,000 even.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Who moved?
Isom was a motion, and we're in the second.
Weirin, okay.
Sorry, Bill. You were a little slow today on the phone. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
Jessica, what was the term of the rent? I mean, what we signed with the county on this? How long do they have the building?
April 15th to June 15th, $2,000 per month for each of those 2 months.
It terminates June 15th.
It terminates June 15th. Ultimately, we cannot transfer the property until after a public hearing is held on June 22nd, so there will be no crossover of ownership.
Okay. So after the public hearing, was there a reason why this tentative date is clear out till August then, to close?
Yeah, we had, the agreement was 60 days, I believe, from the date of the auction to close. And so, assuming that you approve a resolution to sell the property following the public hearing on June 22nd, we will have covered all the steps that we need to take to be able to sell the property.
So theoretically, it could close a lot sooner than August 8th.
Yes.
Before.
I'm sorry, Roger, what?
It's on or before.
So the soonest would be the 26th, 27th of June then?
Yeah, it could be, yes.
Okay, good. I'd like to see us, let's get this over with. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. Any other comments or questions? Again, I don't anticipate any public comment, so let's call the roll.
Goudy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Your Honor, can I have a point of order, please?
You may.
I know several times we may not think that there's public comment, but again, because of the forum that we're in, where we have people virtually here and not everyone here, could we allow for that a certain 10, 15 seconds after each to make sure that we are allowing people to have a comment time if they need to? I mean, I guess when I hear you say, oh, no one would have content, then I might not want to click on and give a comment even if I wanted to. So if we could just either universally have that comment time, which we usually do, I believe, but just not presume that someone doesn't want to comment.
Sure. Part of it is the nature of the item. Part of it
I
is we don't have
understand.
any discussion, and the other part of it is this is what our fourth or fifth meeting where nobody has commented when we allow 10, 15, 20 seconds. So
True, but we never know what's going to strike someone's fancy to want to be a part of the process on.
sure. Well, let's start with this one.
Thank you.
Let's mute the clock. I'll start my watch. 20 seconds.
Oh, 1 second here.
Muted. Unmuted.
Okay, everybody's muted, unmuted, I mean.
Just a point of clarification, there's no item on the table right now.
Right.
That's true. But if anybody did want to speak, we could revisit it or put it back up on the table.
And we'll have a public hearing on June 22nd on the matter as well. So it's not done yet.
Okay.
And Your Honor,
Muted.
Yes, sir.
on that public
Unmuted.
hearing, will we literally have people in here and have a public meeting, do we think?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
All right, on to the next, or are we on to the next resolution? Okay, good. You're anticipating me too quickly, Justin.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the East Merle Hibbs Extension Project in the amount of $2,553,470.75.
Invite a motion to approve.
So move, Your Honor.
Motion by Isom. Sorry.
Second.
Second by Warren. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Fire away.
I'm not sure how to even ask it. You had asphalt and concrete. So the lower bid was asphalt. And who made that decision, I guess, to have one or the other? Does the council have a chance to say we should make this street in concrete? Or is this a mute deal?
So I might start by answering Counselor Hoop, and then I can let legal chime in if necessary. So it was my decision, along with the consulting engineer, to provide the option for both. We felt that gave us the best opportunity to drive up competition for this project to get better bid prices. And as you can see by the bid tabulation, we got an excellent price compared to what we thought the price was going to be. We thought the project was going to cost on the order of $3.6 million, and we're getting a bid of $2.553. Presuming I know who you've spoken to would be the second bidder, and I've also spoken with Construct. I don't believe by state law that we can turn away a responsive low bidder, and that would be Wenthold Excavating. And yes, they did use asphalt as their option for the alternates. I don't know, again, this would be a legal question, and we can let Roger chime in, but we allowed for the bidding of either. And I don't believe legally that we would be able to, again, turn away the low bid, even though it is for asphalt as opposed to concrete. I'd be more than happy to entertain further conversations or questions, or if Roger wants to chime in.
My take on it is this: the bid specifications allowed the bid either way. Anybody had the option to bid it either way or alternatively. We got the low bid from Mr. Wentold.
Wentold Excavating.
Okay, and I don't think we can reject the low bid. It met the bid specifications on the project.
For those unable to hear you because we don't have you mic'd up, let me see if I can repeat that for those listening, and that was that either bidder had the opportunity to bid either way or both ways, and we did take the low bid, and we were legally required to meet that or accept that.
But a concrete company is not going to bid an asphalt job. And if you want a stronger road, which would be concrete, in my mind anyway.
I think from an engineering's perspective, that's not a true statement. So our consulting engineer is on the phone, and we can certainly get him on. But both industries, both concrete and asphalt, provide an application, an online program to basically get an apples-to-apples comparison of concrete versus asphalt. So the concrete section might be a little thinner than the asphalt section. It might have less underlayment, but both Iowa State and the National, I can't remember what it's called, the National Paving Institute, I think, have both endorsed that this is a good tool to get an apples-to-apples comparison of concrete versus asphalt. And I don't know that it's a true statement to say that a concrete street would be a stronger street. And for the public and for you, I wholeheartedly endorse Construct, who I think you're lobbying on behalf of Councilor Hoop. Great company, a great partner for us. Unfortunately, Construct got outbid by another company that was hungrier for the work, and they just happened to be using asphalt. I feel for Construct. I've discussed this with them as well, but that's the nature of the business.
It would seem to me like with major architectural bids too, you can partner up and get subcontractors involved and make a bid that would go both ways.
Correct. Construct is performing another contract for us that's underway right now where they are using asphalt. They're doing the concrete work, the curb and gutter and the sidewalk, but they're partnering with another contractor to lay the asphalt.
Any other questions or comments for Justin?
Your Honor,
Yes,
if I may.
you may.
Justin, is this road going to be designated a truck route?
I don't know that for sure. I believe that yes, it will be based on it. It's going to be a collector similar to maybe Olive or South Ridge or Iowa Avenue.
I mean, we're operating under the assumption when it goes all the way to 12th Avenue.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
that's when.
Yep, your assumption's the same as mine.
And then
Yes.
when it's designated, if and when it's designated as a truck route,
Mhm.
does that change the specifications of the
It
construction?
does not. That's taken into account in that program that I mentioned.
Okay.
And every street takes into account that there will be such a percentage. It's usually much smaller on a residential street, but a residential street still sees a garbage truck, still, at 7 a.m. sees a fully loaded UPS truck. Heavier vehicles with trucks still drive on streets that are not designated truck routes, because if your point of origin or your point of destination is there, you may not be able to get there by using totally truck routes.
And then I guess I have a question for you and Roger both. Legally, and this is kind of a gray area here, the council, I don't think, and I hope I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, we don't mean to tell you how to do your job, but we answer to a lot of people too.
Sure.
We answer to the taxpayers, the long-term longevity of infrastructure.
Sure.
So legally, the only way I see to get around this tonight would be we would reject, and I'm talking to you too, Roger, we would reject this resolution and then instruct you to put it back out there for concrete only?
I don't want to get into that. I'm not sure that would be ethically or legal either. Once again, if we reject a responsible, responsive bidder, I take it back. I believe you have the right to do that. I still believe you might face litigation or at least some outcry from Wenthold Excavating.
I believe you're right. We're going to get outcry either way we go here.
Correct.
Either asphalt or concrete.
Correct.
And I think a major artery that, let's cut to the chase. I've been against this whole thing from the beginning. But if we're going to do it, I'm looking, it's going to be a road that's going to be there forever. It's going to outlive me, obviously. So, and, I grew up.
Either concrete or asphalt
Yeah.
requires ongoing maintenance.
Right. Thank you.
If your answer was, you can vote down the resolution.
Correct.
That's your option.
And for those unable to hear that, the council does have the option to vote down the resolution, according to legal counsel.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Justin.
Other questions or comments by the council?
Only that I think that would be a mistake to vote it down.
I would ask for your guidance. Was it a fair and equitable bid process
Oh, absolutely.
for all bidders?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
That's some of why I mentioned
Yes.
Construct is an excellent partner, and there is no bias here whatsoever against Construct. It was following the state of Iowa bidding laws. And two, I'll share that Construct was part of the idea of bidding concrete versus asphalt so that we could have more competition from multiple bidders, which is what we got.
Well, I agree that we just need to follow the normal process and take the lowest responsible bid.
Other councilor comments or questions? Let's mute, start the clock. Tell me when.
All lines are unmuted.
This is Brian with Wenthold Excavating.
Yes.
Hello?
This is Brian with Wenthold Excavating.
Go ahead, Brian, we recognize you.
I guess we were the low bidder, and if this goes denied and goes to concrete only road, we will not have anybody quote us the concrete work. We reached out to a couple of concrete contractors that are not in Marshalltown. One did give us a price, and it was a lot higher than asphalt, and the other one would not price it. So that is why we went with asphalt as our alternate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other public comment? With those comments, we're pretty well past the 30 or 40 seconds by now, so let's call the roll.
Muted.
Hoop,
Unmuted.
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Okay, that one carried. On to the next resolution when able.
Resolution approving amended number 1 engineering services agreement for the East Merle Hibbs Road construction project for McClure Engineering, increase of $45,754.
Solicit a motion to approve first.
So moved,
So
Your
move,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Let's go with Martin for the motion, Isom for the second. Discussion. Justin.
Yes, sir. So this is a amendment to the engineering contract for McClure Engineers in support of the East Merle Hibbs project. This would be for them to help out with administration throughout construction. I'll mention that we will provide inspection services with our own engineering staff, but this would be for hours of interaction on questions that the contractor has that we would pose back to the engineer, for them to review shop drawings and submittals, for them to help assist with pay applications, things like that as far as the administration goes as we proceed through construction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Fire away with questions or comments.
Justin, is this similar to having someone on site all the time, or is it?
They will not be on, we'll use our own staff on site
On
all the
site.
time. This would be similar to the, I'm trying to make a comparison, an architect, working from Omaha. What they do is, the professional engineer that put these plans together and the thought process of what this was works for McClure Engineering. And so this would be a fee for our inspector to interact with that engineer, to ask questions, like I mentioned, to help review pay applications, to make sure that things are built correctly as the specifications specify.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions or comments for our city engineer? Let's go mute again.
All the lines are unmuted.
My watch wasn't working, but the bird was chirping about 1 second each, so we're up 20 seconds.
Sophisticated
Muted.
time measurement.
Unmuted.
Roll call.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Very good. Carried as well. Next item when we're able.
We have a public hearing followed by consideration of a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract and cost for the Washington Street Extension Project.
Okay, I will declare that public hearing open at the time of 5:57 p.m. The clerk did not receive any written records, according to her, just before the start of the meeting. So we're open for public comments. Let's go 20 seconds again on the timer.
All the lines are unmuted.
That bird is pretty consistent with my stopwatch, actually, so we've hit 20.
Muted.
Let's go back on to
Unmuted.
unmuted. I think we're back on. And is there any staff review to be heard?
Just a quick review that this is for construction of Washington Street between, let's say, 12th and 9th. It's not quite all the way between those two streets. In conjunction with an anticipated development by a Kading Company for some new townhomes. This is a 31-foot back-to-back from curb to curb street. I believe this one's intended to be paved in asphalt at the appropriate thickness, and I would be happy to answer any questions regarding this project.
Mr. Nickel, would you be able to review the costs and the cost sharing?
I do not have that info right in front of me at this moment, Councilor Weirin, but I will certainly get the cost and share that with the council. As to the cost sharing, there are numerous items that have been negotiated to either be paid for by the developer. The cost of the street, however, is being borne by the street. And I do not, off the top of my head, remember what the construction cost is.
I think the estimate was in the neighborhood of $700,000. Kading Properties has paid for the design and engineering. So everything that is out to bid was not produced by Justin or any of his staff, but was reviewed by his staff before being put out to bid. As well as then Kading Properties is putting in the sidewalk on the south side of the property, which would be, or south side of the street, which would be their property. And then I believe that they were also taking care of the cost of the water main extension to be completed in that area as well.
And did they also pay for the acquisition of the right-of-way?
Yes, so there's a large part of the right-of-way that is needed that would be part of their property, that's part of their property purchase that they'll be dedicating to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for the staff review?
Justin, I just had, I'm sorry, Mayor. I just
You got
have
it.
one question. When do they anticipate, I know the bids, I believe I read the bids are due tomorrow.
Bids are due tomorrow.
And when do they anticipate a start date?
I think that's still a little bit flexible, knowing that the water line also has to go in. That's being bid as a separate project.
Okay.
I would fully anticipate that construction would get started yet this year. I suppose it's possible as early as the month of July, maybe month of August would be my ballpark target as to when road construction would start. I'm sure the developer will start as soon as possible.
Thank you. That's
Your Honor.
Yes.
Hey, Justin, you've overlooked the plans, obviously. You know, my concerns are, there's a lot of rainwater that's going to be coming down that hill from Washington. There already is a lot of rainwater coming down 9th, you know, collecting at that it'll become a T intersection.
Yes, sir.
You are comfortable with their stormwater plan?
I am,
For that
yes.
street? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the council? Let's unmute again.
You'll need to close the public hearing.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. And if there aren't any other, are there any other council comments? Otherwise, I will declare the public hearing closed at 6:02 p.m.
In Your Honor, I move that we approve the plan specifications, form of contract, and the cost.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Isom. Any further discussion up here? Or out here, I guess, since the council's kind of spread around the room today. Not seeing anybody jumping up or raising a hand. Let's unmute the phones again.
The lines are unmuted.
There's our 20 seconds. Let's go
Muted.
back live. Or unlive. Muted, I mean.
Unmuted.
Roll call.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Carried. When able, let's go to item H and read the first ordinance, if you would.
This would be the second reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 118, peddlers and solicitors relating to mobile facilities or vehicles.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Motion by Isom.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Gowdy. Discussion by the council. Any staff discussion on this one?
This is relating to Chapter 118 to incorporate requirements to meet the fire code as recently adopted by the council.
Thank you. If anybody thinks that we need to solicit public comment, raise your hand if you would. Okay, let's start the clock whenever you tell me.
The lines are unmuted.
Interesting story about Maria's Tacos today in the paper, while we're muted. 20 seconds is up.
Muted. Unmuted.
Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Sailed right through. Let's go to the second and last ordinance when able.
This is a second reading of the ordinance to amend Chapter 72 parking rules.
I move for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Thompson. Discussion or comments by the council?
If I may, Your Honor.
You may.
I've received more than I expected pushback on this. And I just want to go on the record saying, that the city, at taxpayers' expense, provides a lot of nice parking lots in the sense of parking on the side of the street. And all we ask is you move your car back and forth and abide by the times. I mean, it's that simple. This only affects the people that don't want to follow the rules. It doesn't penalize anybody else that's getting free parking in front of their house, in front of their neighbor's house, down the street, whatever. We maintain those parking lots in front of their house. So I was a little shocked on this one that I got so much pushback. But in the big picture, hopefully this is a wake-up call to the people that just don't want to move their cars. So thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. And I can't help but comment that I have an 11-block commute, and I daily count an average of 5 cars that are parked illegally in that 11 blocks. So people just aren't getting it, or they get it and they ignore it, or they're not paying the tickets. This may just help cut it down to 2 or 3. Any other comments? Well, I suppose this probably is one where we need to open it up to, unless anybody else had any. I don't see anybody raising a hand or making gestures at me, so let's unmute.
The lines are unmuted.
We're not going to hear from the repeat offenders, are we?
I did.
18, 19, 20. Stop the clock.
Muted. Unmuted.
Call the roll.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
No.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. So we're on to discussion items. I guess I could read that one, the first of which is the Unity Point South Campus secondary public street access. Michelle Sponheimer, we recognize you.
Hello, Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. Good to be back in front of everybody after many, many months. So the item we have for discussion here is with Unity Point Health, the South Campus, so South Center Street, past 30. We've been having a lot of conversations as they propose their plans for Phase 2, and part of that involves access. When Phase 1 was developed, access was a discussion that we were having about especially for emergency access to get in there. Right now, as you know, they have one entrance point to the facility, and so the need for a second access point is important to that development. And so as we've kind of continued that discussion, conversation happened related to whether that access would be in a private sense or public street. Certainly as your planner on staff, we do want to encourage the thought of future development opportunity. And the property that is west of the current facility is in city limits and corporate city limits. And as things do develop, maybe many years from now, we want to be prepared for that and know that we have an access point that can get us to that future development to the west when that should occur. So CGA is here, as well as representatives from Unity Point, and I believe Jennifer is going to speak next. But we did provide you with information that CGA put together with some alternatives that were being discussed. They also put those alternatives before the Iowa DOT, being that it is Highway 14. We certainly wanted to gain the DOT's input in that process for preferences, and they did indicate their preference as that third option in your packet. And so I'll let kind of Unity Point take over from here, unless you have any immediate questions for me. And I think we may also have some comments on the phone, just so you're aware, Mary.
Okay,
when
thank
the
you.
time comes. So
Appreciate that.
Question for Michelle. Bill?
Go ahead.
On the packet that we got, I only have on mine option 1. I don't see an option 2 or an option 3.
Let's see, I will.
Scroll down.
You gotta scroll through it. So within the Unity Point attachment PDF, there are 3 maps that are included, option 1, 2, and 3, and then I have kind of some colored text in the bottom corner for each one. But it all should be the same document.
Okay, I've got it now. Let's go sideways. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
Mayor and council members, thank you for letting us present to you today. I'm going to start with a little background and then have Michelle go through the options that we presented in your packet.
We know each other, but I need to have you introduce yourself
Oh,
to the.
I am so sorry. Yes, for those of you I haven't met, I'm Jenny Friedley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Unity Point Health Waterloo Region. And we also have with us today the new hospital administrator in Marshalltown, Sherry King. So, in December of 2019, Unity Point Health Marshalltown received approval from Unity Point Health System for a $38.4 million project to rebuild the hospital, clinic, and an emergency services garage at the South Campus. Prior to that, the previous 12 months, we had engaged 3 national consultants to help us determine what was going to be sustainable for healthcare in Marshalltown. That included a consultant that helped us determine what services the community needed and what services the community would support, the size of the facility to support those services, and then also the location of those services. A lot that went into the location of those services was the beautiful campus that was built out south that really housed the majority of healthcare services other than that inpatient care unit that we would need. So in an effort not to duplicate any very expensive healthcare services, that site was chosen for the relocation and consolidation of all the healthcare services to that location. COVID-19 put a little delay in our plans, so we were just, doing the design pieces of it right prior to when COVID hit. It has delayed us about 2 months. And we are looking for a groundbreaking sometime in late September, early October. Which brings us to today's discussion. So we've always known we need a secondary access into that property. We had budgeted for that private access that Michelle referenced, which is option 1 in your packet. But with talking with the city, we are very open to any of the options that the council would deem as best for the community. With that being said, we would respectfully request that if option 2 or 3 was selected, that we would look at some kind of cost sharing so we wouldn't have to reduce the number of healthcare services out there because we did not have that in our original budget. So with that being said, I'm going to have Mindy come up and talk through the options with you so you can ask some other questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mindy Bringleson, Clapsaddle Garber Associates, 16 East Main Street, Marshalltown. We've been working with Unity Point here the last several months to come up with a site plan and along with the architects and the contractors so that we can come up with a solution that fits within their budget. In phase 1, at that time when it was Marshalltown Medical and Surgical Center, City Street was provided at that main entrance to serve for future development. At this time, we know we need a secondary access in the case that entrance is ever blocked, so we can have emergency vehicles in and out, not only for the hospital, but also the ambulance services that will be moved out to the new facility. So with that being said, we have been in discussions for several years, actually, with the New Hope Christian Church for an access through their property. At the time, it was always discussed as an easement. It wasn't really brought up as being a city street. As Michelle had stated, as we've kind of started talking through the development review process. That's the city street portion has come up, and we have met with those neighbors out there and have discussed this with them. I know that at least one, if not both of them, are on the phone today, might have some comments to add to this, but we ultimately want to have a solution that's a win-win for everyone. So we've, in your packet, provided you with, as we've stated, 3 options. The first option is just an easement through the New Hope Christian Church property. We've moved that access away to preserve the trees in that area. That's a big concern for the residential home on the north side of the church. And with that, it would just, be kind of a small 30-foot access easement, private drive, but we would, as requested by the Iowa DOT, consolidate the residential drive with that new access drive. So that was option 1. Option 2 is a 66-foot wide city right-of-way through the New Hope Christian Church property. That right-of-way, as it could potentially extend to the west, doesn't have to stay on the church property. That's something to, that we can work through at a later time. This is the kind of the typical at the very north end of that property. It wouldn't leave any extra property remaining, but it would remove all those nice large pine trees that provide wind block and screening for that residential property. And the third option that we presented was in an effort to preserve those trees that we mentioned. This, however, would leave a piece of land beyond that 66-foot city right-of-way that is too small to remain its own parcel, so would either need to become a wider right-of-way in that area or be conveyed to the neighboring properties that abut that piece. As Michelle stated, the DOT, they like this option because we would be removing both the residential driveway access and the New Hope Christian Church access and tying them into that street. Now, that doesn't mean that those property owners, that's their favorite one. I'll just tell you that. But from the DOT's standpoint, we're eliminating some access points onto the highway. So they did prefer that. In addition to the drawings that we presented, we've put together a cost estimate. This is the hospital project is a design build project, so we do have contractors on board, and this is from the contractors' pricing that they gave us. There's some pieces in here that obviously are true estimates, such as land value. But this is just to show, I guess, the impact of the cost from switching to a private access drive to a city street nearly doubles the cost of that project, that piece of the project, I should say. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have on the options or the cost estimating.
Are there any questions?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Mindy, no matter what direction we go, we can't stop you from putting the 26-foot wide driveway in, right? Stop Unity Point.
No, it's been requested for a secondary access from city staff, but also it's good for Unity
if we don't do any cost sharing, we don't do a street, or if we vote that down, when the time comes, you're still going to put this. You're still going to put this $168,000 driveway in.
Correct.
With the cooperation
of the landowners.
Yeah, with Larry and with New Hope.
Correct.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Before inviting public comment, I'd like to say that it was an encouraging newspaper story about the hospital, the new hire here, and the fact that Unity Point was able to turn around what was a real challenge financially not too many years ago to getting to the point where we can go forward like that. So this is pretty exciting for the city of Marshalltown to have this available. Sherry King, would you like to address this first, or would you like me to invite public comment before you? Public comment first. Okay, let's do the public comment. Tell me when we're unmuted.
All lines are unmuted.
We're unmuted and the watch has started.
This is Don Albert with New Hope Church. I had a couple questions.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
As we look at some of the three diagrams that Mindy sent us, there's a lot of positives and a few negatives for us on each of those. I was just curious on a timeline for us to be able to sit down with some of our leaders and elders to kind of go through these and get what we would like definitely to see happen. We just wondered if that was going to be a week or a month down the road, or what kind of timeline we had to kind of discuss this.
Hang on just a second, Don. We'll get somebody up here that could address that. Mindy?
Okay.
Don, this is Mindy Bringle, CGA. Really that's something that we kind of just need to see which direction we're going to go with this, and then I think it would be something we would sit down with you right away to start discussing, because as Jenny had mentioned, we're hoping to break ground in September, and we'd like to have all of these issues resolved at that time.
Okay, of the three options, will we have much of a choice in that, or is this just mostly a city decision as to what they're doing?
I was going to say, I'll take that one. The reason why we're before you tonight is because we've been spending a lot of time trying to go back and maybe fix issues where there wasn't public access necessarily thought about or provided for on development projects. We look at the development of Unity Point on the south side as having something that has a significant amount of potential for future growth and development. It's a hospital. It's certainly going to draw some other things that want to be adjacent to it in terms of uses. And so we want this in front of you now to think about what you want as the city council. From the staff perspective, we would like to see there be a city street there, and would recommend that we have some cost participation in that based on what we have done with some other organizations. And so that's where we're at this point, is we want your guidance as to whether or not this is something that you would support with a city street, or if you want Unity Point to just keep it as a private drive. If it is something that you all desire to have as a city street, then that's when I think you get some discussion points between options 2 and 3 with the property owners. And so really tonight we're looking for your direction so that we as staff in the development review process can give better direction to Unity Point as to how they should proceed with their plans and development.
Is staff looking for the direction that would be as specific as which one of the three items tonight? Or is this getting this out on the table so we can all consider it, let people that have questions research it a little bit, maybe drive out there and take a look and that sort of thing?
I think, the big thing we would want to know is, do you want a public street out there? And not necessarily which option, that doesn't have to be something that is decided tonight, but just generally, if you don't want a city street, then that's a decision that gets Unity Point moving on their way. If it is that you do, then that's when certainly with CGA, with Unity Point, and with the property owners, there's a lot more discussion to have to come up with a solution that works hopefully for all of us.
Sure. Don, do you have a read on what the elders would have preferences over, or what would need more discussion?
Well, originally when we talked back before Unity Point took it over, we had been talking about an easement with the hospital being out there, and we just had to work out some of the particulars, and then things kind of changed. So the third one that they sent us is a little bit different, and I will say that Mindy's been very good about keeping us up to date on a lot of things, and I've talked to Jenny and they've been very good to work with, but we were just concerned that there would be a decision tonight where we really didn't have time to sit down with all the leaders and elders and kind of say, here's what would be the best scenario for us, how can we work with you?
Sure. Well, if you don't mind me injecting my own opinion, I would like to look at it a little more carefully. I personally think, given the fact that there will be inevitable development out there, it might be prudent for the city to have a street out there so it has a little more control over other development that is likely to occur later. But I don't know what impact that has on the neighbors, including New Hope and Stover and others out there. And so what I'm thinking tonight is, if there aren't, I should call for other comments by the public before pontificating or making a suggestion. Okay. The suggestion is that we give staff direction to continue a dialogue with CGA, with the Unity Point folks, and with neighbors out there to figure out which works the best for all of us. So maybe at the next meeting you come back with a strong recommendation saying this is going to work, and my hunch is the council will think that's a good idea. Do you need a motion to that effect, though, for city staff to keep working on this?
Yes, I would say that we want to know that this is something that everybody wants, or at least 4 of you want. Otherwise, there's no point in us spending our time or wasting Unity Point's time if indeed that there is no desire to see a city street there.
Okay. Well, how about council reaction to that?
Your Honor, I just had one question. Are we taking if
Muted.
option 3?
Unmuted.
I'm looking at down at the bottom, $500,000. And am I correct in you're putting in 168,000? Is that correct? Or I guess 168,000
Yeah.
off of option 2 or 3.
Good evening, thank you. I am Sherry King, as of yesterday, the administrator of Unity Point Health Marshalltown. Yes, you are correct. We would certainly still contribute our budgeted amount to that project. But again, we want to be sensitive to what the community needs, looking at a long-term future.
Thank you. And I guess while I've got the floor, I had discussed this with Jessica today, and a couple questions, and that had also came up by the access of and to use Gary's words, we may not be here when this is all developed, but I think it's worth studying or giving direction to put a road out there. Not that Unity Point is not going to be a great partner, but when we develop something, I think it's in our best interest, and hopefully everybody agrees that it's in the city's best interest to put a street out there and not have them control the access to a housing development or whatever. And with that being said, I would go along with whatever best fits option 2 or 3.
Is that a motion, Mr. Gowdy?
From me.
Okay, we'll take that as a motion. Is there a second or other comments or reactions by the other councilors?
What exactly was that motion?
I would
to put a
move
street
that
in.
we put either option 2 or option 3 on the table for consideration, just to kind of get the ball rolling and be able to talk to the 2 private entities and get this coordinated out to whichever option is going to work out the best for each, and just eliminate the option 1. That's a motion, or my opinion, or motion, or
Let's
whatever.
call it a motion.
Second.
Second by Isom. Now a discussion by the council.
Your Honor, I have a question for Unity Point. I don't know which one of you wants to come up and take this.
I'll go first. You go first. I'll go first.
Welcome to Marshalltown.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to
I understand
coming
you will
home.
be relocating to our
Yes.
fine city.
Yes, I
Thank
will
you.
be.
Thank you. My question is, if we proceed with the motion and move forward with putting a street in there, which I think is in everybody's best interest long-term, other developers in town have been forced to pay, when we did Lily Lane, which means nothing to you.
Yeah, it does. It's on the south side of West Lincoln
Oh, you've already
Way.
started looking at houses.
I've been on real estate a lot.
So Lily Lane, unless somebody corrects me, was the developer put that street in. That same developer also put in Carson and all the streets out at South Point. Kester put in the streets out at Cross Country. So if we say, yeah, we want a street, but we want you to pay the full price as a developer, because it actually, I'm assuming you owned more land out there that you would probably lease or sell to potential developers on your property. You have something financially to gain from this street.
Potentially. Jenny, do you know how much we have out there fully? I appreciate your question. I'm not sure I'm fully educated enough to answer.
So I guess what I'm saying, I'm looking at you, I'm not looking at you as the hospital partner in this, but you truly are a developer that has something to gain from this street being put in. So why shouldn't I, as a steward of the taxpayers' money, require you to put the infrastructure in that's going to help you in the future?
I think my response to that would be because we wouldn't be the only user. If there were going to be multiple users of that surface, then I would think that we would want to have others contribute to that cost besides simply Unity Point.
Okay. Would you say that's the city, or is that the landowner behind you to the west that this street will service?
I think that would be up to the council.
You are so political. Welcome.
I'm learning.
Welcome to town.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
So I think the thing is we went into this and the approval for the new hospital with the private drive in mind, because that had been the discussion all along. If that budget increases to $500,000 for the road, when we have the $168,000 in there, we're gonna have to cut other services because we're not getting any more money and we don't get to go over budget. And so that would be the dilemma for us, is what do we cut out of the project in order to put the road in?
And I assume the entrance into the hospital just goes that far. The other development would be down the road farther away, not owned by the hospital?
Correct.
Okay.
I appreciate your answers for both of you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more question? You don't want to go too far, I don't think.
Yeah.
As I heard the discussion of what was moving out there, is the inpatient care moving out there?
It is.
In the second phase, that's part of the second
Yes,
phase?
so that's what we would be moving out there, is
Okay.
the emergency room, the inpatient unit, a new ambulance garage, brand new clinic, and support services like cardiac rehab and all those other outpatient services we do.
Are there any plans in these futures to reinstate OBGYN services?
Yeah, not at this time. So again, when we had our consultants here, that was one of the things that, you have to have a significant amount of volume to be able to recruit physicians, and we were unable to recruit. And I don't think that's going to change. Docs coming out of residency today for OB want one of two things. They want to be in a group large enough that they only have to be on call 2 or 3 times a week, or they want to work in a model like the Des Moines hospitals where they're hospitalist and they come in and work 12-hour shifts and deliver babies for 12 hours and then they go home. Because that is the work-life balance that our OB residents are demanding these days. And we had enough volume barely to support one doc. And that means they would have to be on call every single night. Or we have to bring locums docs in that are traveling docs, and then you never know what you're getting. I'll never say never. You'll never hear me say never, but right now with the way healthcare is moving, I don't see that. But we do have prenatal and postnatal services in town. And really, that's the important part for moms, because they want to not, be gone for a half a day to go to an appointment. And that's what they're doing every month or every week towards the end of their pregnancy. And so for that delivery, they would have to leave at this point. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Please. In a follow-up to Sue's question, the elephant in the room is the old hospital. When all this is said and done, the old hospital will be shuttered 100%.
Yes.
Okay. So if we help you put a street in that will help you develop that land, we also understand there's going to be some environmental issues with that old site and the deconstruction of that old site.
Yep.
Is that something you're anticipating, you budgeted for? And
Michelle wants that.
Michelle wants this one?
Yes. I'm going to jump in here for just a moment on this one. So we recently had applied for a EPA Brownfields grant to do some initial assessment on things of multiple places on the corridor, but specifically
The whole
medical
four-block
campus.
area of the hospital?
Yes. Unfortunately, we're not awarded that most recent grant, but what it did offer to us was an opportunity to form a relationship with Kansas State University, their TAB program, which is specifically focused on brownfield and environmental work and some of those kind of what I'll call maybe planning stages of hopefully supporting a future application. And so we have started conversations with that. It's an opportunity that's free to us as a city. They are funded through the EPA and would work with Iowa DNR as well. And we'll be able to really look at what are some of those issues that we're going to be facing with the transference of the campus and environmentally especially, and what does that look like for us and what are options that we may have in terms of how we're looking at new development potential, where does the city play a role, where does Unity Health play a role. So a lot of those questions, we're going to start to really flush out some of those things here right away as we work through with KSU TAB and Iowa DNR and Unity Point as part of that partnership. So
Michelle,
we don't have a lot of those answers right now, but
well, you understand my concern. I don't want to.
Absolutely.
I don't want to financially put the taxpayers' help to Unity Point vacate this, and then we have to pick up the tab for the majority of the cleanup and the deconstruction of your property. And that's my concern. So I guess I'd like to see more discussion with Michelle's department and whoever else is involved that play into whatever decision we make on the road.
Yeah, and we are working with Michelle's department, and we are happy to participate in this program. And we responded right away, yes, we want to participate in that. Our real estate principal has also met with Michelle's team and Jessica.
Okay.
And so we're trying to work hand in hand with the city on how we redevelop that property.
And of course, I'm like Sue, I want to see services come back to stay in town. I mean, we all want that.
We need to grow. We need to grow and bring healthcare back local, and we'll add them. If we have them and people use them, we'll bring them back.
Right. Thank you very
When
much.
we moved here in 1986, the hospital was flush, had all sorts of services. It had the in-house mental health services. We tried to get the cancer, the ability to have a cancer facility here. We missed that one. And then we went to the point where we were in bankruptcy and badly needing some help. And so 38 other hospitals have lost the OB abilities around the state, as I understand it. If we build it, they will come, and I really hope that in 10, 20 years we see those services come back. But in the meantime, it'll be nice to have a hospital that keeps people here and attracts other people from competing places. Even Nevada is close enough to be a competitor.
We're designing the facility so it can be flexible, so we can expand where it makes sense to expand in the future if those services come back.
You bet. We've gotten a little far
Yep.
from looking at an easement or access through the hospital itself or through a city street. So let's see if we can bring it back to what's germane. Any other questions or comments about option 2, 3, or 1? If not, let's, I think we had a second, did we not? We did. Let's go ahead and vote on the motion to have the city staff look forward to examining option 2 and 3.
Cahill?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, folks from Unity Point. This is exciting. Let's move on to the next item, which is the Central Iowa Fair Board Sidewalk Update. Justin, are you our updater?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So included in your packet is an update to a memo from, I believe, back in March, maybe? But essentially on Saturday, May 25th, I received a counteroffer from Central Iowa Fair Board. That counteroffer is written up and included as an attachment in your packet. I am certainly not here to try and persuade the council one way or the other, but I believe we have counselors that are interested in examining the situation and rediscussing this Central Iowa Fair Board counteroffer.
Thank you. Any counselor wish to start the discussion?
Your Honor, I will be happy to. Since there's an ask in the counteroffer for snow removal equipment, I guess I'm just curious if there's conversation or justification on why a 5-foot path does not allow for snow removal equipment. Just a quick Google search allows you and brings up a attachment you can put on front of a 4U UTV 60-inch that clears a 5-foot sidewalk, no problem. So I guess that point within the counteroffer I'm kind of confused on, because a 5-foot still allows for necessary equipment in order to allow for snow removal. I'm assuming no conversation was around that or justified or elaborated on their.
So I'll reiterate that I'm not here to lobby on their behalf. The discussions that I've been privy to have been that is such a great length compared to any of the other private property owners out there. I believe it might be close to half a mile when you stretch from north to south and then south to from the west to the east. That would be the reasoning behind the Fair Board's preference for an 8-foot trail.
So I guess my comment for everybody is a 5-foot path still allows them to be able to use a piece of equipment which is much less than $18,000 fully purchased brand new. It still allows them to be able to do that in one foul sweep. So I myself am opposed to an 8-foot still and remain adamant that we proceed with a 5-foot path in that area, like the other residents have already agreed to, and we've essentially proceeded down that path thus far.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Martin.
We've been at this project now for over 12 years. It's an important asset to the community for the public safety, walking, jogging, even biking. We realize that the Central Iowa Farm property, or Central Iowa Fair Board property, is unique. Any improvement, whether sidewalk or 8-foot wide, would be an improvement to that area. It would provide ready access, safe access, and so on. I'm just wondering out loud, and I will say this before, I know Justin and Garber has done a lot of work on this, as has the Central Iowa Fair Board and others around the project, and I appreciate it. I was the one that wanted to keep discussion going and see if we could find some common ground and something that was meaningful and so on. We're at the pinnacle point where we've got just a little ways to go. However, I want to know if the Fair Board has put any money, or if you will, behind that type of thing. Otherwise, I guess I would favor going back to the 5-foot wide sidewalk. We still need to have access there, I believe, and again, I come down to the public safety aspect of this. So I'm hoping we can adjust to a win-win situation. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, I think you were also.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's my understanding, Justin, this 18,000 is in addition to the 12,000 they would get for the easement.
It's been 2 weeks since I've read their proposal, but I believe you are correct, Councilor Thompson.
They're saying they want 30,000 from us or whoever we can pull into this picture. I just wanted to clarify that the number we're talking about is not 18,000; it's 30,000. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Other councilor comment? Yes, Ms. Gale. I saw your hand first, sorry.
Thank you. Justin, is this they're asking for just a one-time purchase? I mean, if for years it's out of warranty, something breaks down and it needs to be replaced, who is maintaining the equipment and keeping it for future use?
As I read the counteroffer, I cut and paste from an email that was sent to me. I see no mention of any clauses like that, so it would be my presumption as well that this is a one-time payment for the purchase of equipment, and that operation, maintenance, and any other costs as they go forward would be borne by the Central Iowa Fair Board.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoop, I believe you also raised a hand.
There's no way we can give them $18,000 to purchase something to clean snow, because you're going to have 11 other business owners all the way down that street say, hey, I'd like to have a new snow blower also, or a new blade, or pick your equipment. I just don't see how you can give money to buy equipment without buying something for everybody. And that'd be a deal breaker for me.
Thank you.
Can I come back with one? In our earlier discussions, if we went to the 8-foot path, is it my understanding that then the city maintains it if we are calling it like a bike path or a multi-use path? Is that where we were previously?
There was discussion on that. I don't know that there was any conclusion drawn, but using maybe precedent, there is a bike path along South Center Street, starting at about Walmart's, and then going to the south that, yes, is maintained. Snow removal maintenance and maintenance, even though there's fairly lack of that, is provided by the city.
So our code of ordinances has a definition for a sidewalk and then assigns adjacent property owners responsibility for care of sidewalks. And so if it doesn't fit the definition of a sidewalk, then our code doesn't apply.
So we need to figure out if an 8-foot strip going past the fairgrounds is fitting the definition of a sidewalk.
Well, in this situation, they're saying they'd take care of it. We help them with the purchase of the equipment. There's no reason for the city. There'd be, of course, an agreement that would need to follow with this as well to really define these terms. But basically, there is no issue if it's 8 foot because they're saying that they'll be responsible for the maintenance.
I'm trying to put into my mind how far $18,000 goes to have our staff do that snow maintenance. And I have no idea how to even figure that, but what's the better deal?
So the department director that would handle that is not here, so I mean, I'll let Jessica speak, but there isn't capacity of our staff to maintain.
There isn't, and to just hit on the price, as we were talking with the fairgrounds very early on, we did have our Parks and Rec superintendent, Brad Weave, who does purchase the little ones that are doing like the 5-foot thing, and what sort of pricing we were looking at there. And I think with an enclosed cab with all the attachments, it was well above 30,000.
Was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and so that's where 18,000 doesn't get you anywhere close to what that cost would be. So as we're looking at, those are things that we purchased, we did have the ability to look at what what your brush, what your blade would be on an enclosed cab, little gator type of UTV thing, and it didn't fit. And so that's where, as this has gone along and they've come back now with this proposal for equipment at an 8-foot wide path. This seemed to be something where there could be a middle ground, because 8-foot wide, you're talking about a truck. You're not talking about something that is a specialized piece of equipment.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I spoke with someone from the fair today in length, and I can't disclose. I guess I didn't get the person's permission to share what we talked about in too much detail, but it was made clear to me they have no money. And no matter what we do is going to put them at a financial burden unless we put the sidewalk in and take care of it. But I tried to get the sidewalk rerouted somewhere else. I think we're in a no-win situation here. I agree with the comments made. We can't buy equipment for somebody. We can't set that precedent, open that door. And I'm one that wants sidewalks everywhere. I guess the alternative is, are we willing to put the 5-foot sidewalk in and use eminent domain to force this, and legally can we? And is this really, do we want to go back and revisit the route? I realize CGA's made a fortune off this for, okay, not a fortune. But I mean, I agree with like Bill, with Councilman Martin. It's like, this is gonna, we've got to do something here. And none of us, I don't think, know what the answer is unless we're willing to, someone's got to put something out there that we just do it.
Continue to talk about sidewalk gaps throughout the community, doing anything else everywhere around the area besides this one area. Thus prevents the same issue we're trying to battle throughout the rest of the community. I say that we proceed with 5 feet sidewalks and hope that there's maybe some other conclusion besides that, but if that's the end goal and that's what it takes to complete the full scope of the project, that's what I would be in favor of.
And we're, in essence, giving them $12,000 towards the purchase of whatever equipment or manpower they want.
That's how I would see it, yes.
I'll second that. I heard a motion.
I will confirm that that was a motion then.
Okay. The motion, for those that couldn't hear, is to go with the 5-foot sidewalk there. The fair will be getting the $12,000 as part of the deal.
So
Further-
5-foot sidewalk, no contribution towards equipment, easement only payment? Is that?
That would be correct.
Any staff reaction to that before we, well, I guess we can invite other council comment first. We can still invite public comment to Ms. Kale.
Can you explain to me, if I'm trying to piece together some past items. Is it correct? We have some service groups that like mow some of our parks for us. Do we still do that?
I don't know the answer to that directly, Councilor Cahill. Yes, I've been under that impression as well. So here's the man that can answer your question.
Perfect.
And I turned it over to.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, Jeff Hubbard, Park and Rec Director. We do have several service clubs like Kiwanis that mows, but then we also have just other lawn care companies that we contract out with. So our park staff only mows Riverview and a few other smaller parcels. Otherwise, all the other city parks are maintained by outside providers.
So I'm coming back and I'm just trying to think of I'm throwing an idea out here. I mean, is it possible that, again, if we went the 8-foot, which is more of a multi-use trail size, and if we don't have the capacity to do it within our city, but yet are expected to maintain it as a multi-use trail, could we, I don't know if it's feasible to, again, use a service group, use an outside service to maintain that.
And we have
piece
20 miles
property.
of trails right now that we don't clear all the snow off of all of. I mean, we do some areas that are kind of considered sidewalks connectivity, but if you were to go on the trail out to Radio Tower Road, it wouldn't be cleared all winter long. And the ones around the the ponds, those aren't cleared.
Okay.
So we
Which
don't
ones,
do a lot.
Can you give me an idea of what is cleared?
I can't. I'd have to ask
Okay,
Brad for sure.
I'm just trying to decide. Again, we know this is a
Majority of the ones we
high-use
don't.
area.
Yes. I think the ones in the downtown area, like around Mega 10 and the Y, are ones that we do,
Okay.
but that's about it.
We just know from the traffic data that we've gotten that this is a high-use area, high walker, pedestrian area, and an unsafe area. So I'm just trying to think, is there another alternative that doesn't give equipment to the fairgrounds, but also provides them understanding that they're a not-for-profit group as well and don't have money, that if there's another alternative, and if we don't have the capacity, if there's just another way around it.
And with our staff and the equipment that we have now, I mean, it takes us a good 24 hours just to do the downtown, the routes that we do have. And sometimes with the snow, it takes even longer than that. So to add that additional parcel on, I wouldn't feel comfortable guaranteeing we would get to it in a timely fashion that people would want it.
No, I understand that. So like I said, is there, I don't know what the cost is that we pay a service organization to maintain a piece. I'm just throwing out an idea.
So in my discussions with the Central Iowa Fair Board, this topic had been breached as well, because the Central Iowa Fair Board utilizes service groups and volunteers as well. They had two concerns. One was that our ordinance requires that snow be removed off your sidewalk within 24 hours. And once again, back to an equity discussion, are we going to allow the Central Iowa Fair Board to not observe that ordinance while 11 other properties and the thousands of others in the city don't? And that secondly, that it is adjacent to a 12th Governor Road, 12th Avenue, and Olive Street, and that as our city plows come along, and if they are applying salt and plowing and push slush up onto the sidewalk, it then freezes. And from a volunteer's perspective, it is going to be an almost insurmountable task to break up that slush that is then refrozen and move it off. So this topic had been breached with the Central Iowa Fair Board and didn't see any positive solution coming out of that. But I appreciate your discussion.
Okay,
Counselor
thank
Cahill.
you.
I think it sounds like an opportunity for the Marshall County Sheriff's Office to get involved because they have the house out there and there are people living there, and I bet there may be a couple of hours of work that they could do for the facility, and that would be work donated to the community.
Your Honor.
Mr. Thompson.
In that conversation, I guess I will share one other thing. The biggest concern wasn't so much 12th Avenue to where the sidewalk's going to be in relation. It was Olive Street, that those plows fly down Olive Street, and it will throw snow. No matter how high you elevate that sidewalk, no matter how far away, it's going to be an issue for them no matter what we do. Yeah, this is a no-win for us, but we've got to do something.
Or we can convince Bill Martin to run for another 6 terms, try to get this.
Is anyone
Thank
from
you
the fair?
very much. No. Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the discussion. It's freewheeling and full of ideas, but reality hits the road, so to speak, and I have to agree in part with Councilman Hoop and Councilman Thompson. I don't see how we can give tax money to a private entity, albeit tax exempt and so on. I wish this were better times financially for everybody. It isn't. I would like discussion to continue, but I'm not sure what direction. We've had a lot of input on this, official and unofficial, and I certainly appreciate it. It's a quandary. No easy solution. The only thing I can think of that's legal and appropriate is the sidewalk, 5 foot. And that personally is not what I wanted, but it's a group decision here. So I'd say we proceed if there is interest in that. But ultimately, I think we've got to make a decision on sidewalk. There is nothing out there, and there are people using it all the time for jogging, walking, all hours of the night. Traffic, at certain times is very heavy. I know there's been a death on their way back when from a walker or by a walker that was hit by a car, never solved. So I guess I'm at a loss at this point, but I do understand the different viewpoints presented and discussed before for that matter. So
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Let me throw it out to the counselors for any other comments by the counselors before we open it up to the public.
I just have one more quick one.
Yep.
There's 2 of us here that have been dealing with this and talking about this for 12 years.
Yep.
And it's went so many different directions. There's no way that, to me, that we can buy equipment for someone to plow. And there's no way that I would ever favor any kind of eminent domain to do something like that. So I just think after 12 years, I may go home and cry myself to sleep tonight.
So Councilor Hoop touched on my next point. A 5-foot sidewalk will still require property from the Central Iowa Fair Board, and should they desire not to sign, that would require the use of eminent domain by the city.
and I know better than this, but another option is to have the price readjusted for the easement. So it's not for equipment. Any other counselors wish to comment? Because we probably need to invite public input on this one. Okay, let's unmute.
The lines are unmuted.
We'll go 20 seconds again. Time is up.
Muted.
Let's call the roll.
Unmuted.
Can you reread the motion, Your Honor?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Are you up for that, Sherry?
I am, Your Honor. I so move to proceed with the 5-foot sidewalk with a $12,000 easement payment only. Second by Warren.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Gowdy?
No.
Hoop?
No.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Cahill?
No.
Motion failed.
Anybody feel like beating a dead horse, or should we go on to the next?
I think we need to beat a dead horse. Like,
Well, I think to go back kind of where we're at, they have given us a counteroffer, and there should be a response. If you're not ready to provide a response at this meeting, we can put it on the next agenda. I will say eminent domain is a very serious thing. All of you, I think, understand that and know that. It is so serious it requires 6 of 7 of you to move it forward. And so I think as you all start to think about this over the next few weeks, that you really have to think about if that's something that you're willing to do. We had, I think back in February, put together a memo that had some other options of, we can just build the sidewalk up to the fairgrounds property, that there are some other options. And so we can bring that memo back to you with what some of those things might be if there is not a way to work out a deal with the fairgrounds or to use eminent domain to acquire the property to place sidewalk on the fairgrounds property. So, but that is really truly what's out there. There's a counteroffer on the table. If you're not ready to respond to it tonight, we can bring it back to the next council meeting.
Your Honor, I move that we refuse the Fair Board's counteroffer.
A second.
Discussion?
Your Honor, just one question of, because it's so vague in the response from the Fair Board, and I see a mention of some monumental or whatever the word I'm looking for, pittance from the county. Is there a way to get a figure from the county on about what they're thinking? It's actually Marshall County Fair Board, and I'm just wondering if the city is being asked to kick in all this money, and I don't see any response from the county supervisors.
Are you looking at me?
Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I don't know how much I can say.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Justin, take it away.
So the counteroffer from the Central Iowa Fair Board that I'm trying to does make mention of upon receipt of allowance, the county supervisors have agreed to contribute some additional dollars for the equipment and provide consultation towards the purchase of equipment. That's the statement that is being referred to. I believe it was in March. I did have a face-to-face meeting with Tyler Woolham, ex officio from the Central Iowa Fair Board. The gentleman currently on the Fair Board's name escapes me, and
Mike Duffy's the president.
Mike Duffy, and County Supervisor Thompson, and much like Councilor Gary Thompson, I'm not sure I want to put a lot on him, but it seemed much more like a 50-50 partnership to me in that discussion in the cost of equipment. No numbers, nothing was shook on or agreed to, but I would certainly say that my impression of that discussion was more of a 50-50 partnership in purchase of equipment.
So am I assuming you're saying we would put in 18,000 and the county would put in 18,000?
Once again, no numbers were discussed. If you want to draw that conclusion, I think that's fairly reasonable from
Your Honor, if I may. Sue, I'll tell you what I know, not what I'll tell you what I can share. If we put a motion out there that we would change the easement price to the 12,000 plus half of the 18, so 9, so 12 and 9 is 21,000, that maybe we put it'd be like what we did with the chamber with the housing study, that we proposed so much money only if they followed through. Does that make sense? You know, we said we would do after they did the study, we said, well, we'll contribute this much money if they do initiate the plan or whatever they said. Implementation, yes. So if we put something together to say that we're going to put 21,000 towards the easement, which we all know what we're talking about here, though, that we could tie that to the county we would only provide those funds if the county put 9,000 forward, which would get them to the 30,000. So 9 from us, 9 from the county, and 12 for the easement from us.
5 foot or 8 foot?
Huh? Fight doesn't matter to me. I mean, I like.
Well, they're demanding 8 foot, so.
I think you can plow 5. I don't see us, because that expense is on us, putting 3 more foot wide in. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so why would we go 8 foot? You can elevate that sidewalk to where you're not tearing up the grass. Am I wrong there? Can you have it?
I'm not sure it's quite from a man that's done maintenance,
But
I
I
know
know
the leader of maintenance.
From plowing snow before on my own property, you can angle the blade quite a bit and you can get by with 5.
Not with a truck. I get what you're saying and I think it would be.
It'd tear up some soil.
Yeah.
It just seems outside looking in that they're set on a particular way of doing this, and that makes no sense to me. Let's be a little more creative. We've offered lots of options tonight. I think the county can find some used equipment to give them. I think the county can work with the sheriff's office and get it cleared by people who are trying to repay debts to society. That's how it works.
So what is our hang-up tonight? Is it the eminent domain, or is it the dollar figure for the easement?
Just to, here's what I would say. This is clearly a negotiation, and the motion on the table right now is to refuse the counteroffer with nothing else. And so if you refuse the counteroffer, Justin's going to send some emails, make some phone calls tomorrow and say they rejected your offer and didn't make a counteroffer.
Oh.
And why would they negotiate against themselves? They have no incentive to do that. And so I think if the motion that is on the table does move forward, we in a staff position have no ability to have any further conversation. And so that's where I think at the next meeting we're talking about, do you want to do this project? Is it one where we just dead ended at their property, or are you using eminent domain and going back through those options again?
Your Honor, if I may, let me clarify that. Once that motion got voted on, I was going to make another motion as a new proposal.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not looking I'm looking to come to a decision tonight. I mean, I don't want this. I want Al to sleep tonight, okay? I want us to make a decision, 4 of the 7 of us, to agree on a path moving forward. I don't really care what it is right now. I just want to move forward on this because, like Al said, and Mr. Martin said, 12 years is a long time to debate something.
As I understand Robert's Rules of Orders, which I don't very well, whoever made the motion could withdraw it, and you could make a new motion now.
One question. I guess I haven't heard anything of why the 5-foot sidewalk was voted down or removing the 18,000. So I guess I'm at a loss for what everybody's objection is to the original motion. So I don't know, help guide me with regards to where we're going then next, because I have zero picture.
And all I understand is the motion right now is to say no thanks to the counteroffer.
All I got to say is safety is continue to be a priority within the community. Sidewalk gaps continues to be a conversation. So I'm at a real loss of words with regards to where the disconnect is here with the strategic plan we put in place from a council perspective and where we're at tonight with regards to this item. That's absolutely frustrating. Somebody maybe want to talk or speak up with regards to where we're going to go with this. Otherwise, call it quits and have a gap in the Central Iowa Fairground property and have them be an eyesore. Sounds good.
I forgot who made the motion. Madam Clerk?
I did.
You did. You're willing to withdraw that and make a new motion?
He wants.
I'm willing, Your Honor, I'm willing to withdraw the motion.
Oh, that motion.
If the 4 people that voted no are willing to say what the hangup was on the 5 foot and the 12,000 easement. Was it the eminent domain? I mean, let's tonight, somebody make a motion that we can all agree on.
One point of clarification, eminent domain therefore requires an additional vote in itself. Correct?
This would be something that, I mean, you're basically getting them, if you're not accepting their offer tonight, then you're making a counter offer and there's still ongoing conversation, which I would hope result in something coming back to the next meeting where we have an idea of you all have hit a brick wall with the Central Iowa Fair Board and where this is going, and these will go back to that list of options that you had. So this is not deciding anything tonight, but I think that's the thing of if we can't find that middle ground with the Central Iowa Fair Board, then you have some different options to look at, but they're different and they're limited. And the only one that really includes making a whole sidewalk connection is going to be eminent domain. If they won't agree to sell you the property, then that's going to be your option.
Let me try this, Your Honor,
Okay.
if I may. I will withdraw my motion, and will you allow me to make another one?
I will.
Okay. I move that we move forward with a 5-foot sidewalk, that the easement price we offer them, our counter offer to their counter, is $21,000. And we'll leave it at that. If they want to approach the county for the missing funds that they believe they need, or if they want to take our offer.
Second.
Anyone want to discuss this further?
What was our, if I may, did we have an easement on, how in line or out of line is that with the other easement offers? Did we have other easement offers to the other property owners?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that back, Councilor Cahill. So the 5-foot sidewalk is currently what's being offered to them, so that won't be any change from what we've got on the table right now. I need to go back and look exactly, but the number that sticks in my head was $10,400 plus the city bearing some costs for some improvements for their driveway accesses to be hard surfaced coming in there. So we'd probably look at the details and then maybe get back to Councilor Thompson, but essentially $21,000 is the offer. And at least in my experience, we've continued to maintain the dollar amount because that's based on a calculation for dollars per square foot. And then in the past, even real recently, I've used the remainder is just called an administrative settlement.
Or the construction easement part of it.
And are we using the same lineal per foot that we did for the homeowners that had 50 or 75 feet frontage?
So I need to go back and review, but at least, again, in my experience, it's been based on an actual, if you did a full appraisal, it'd be based on some comparable costs. I've used as simple as using the county assessor's dollar per square foot for the price of the land, not the improvements. So I need to go back and review, but I think it's all relatively comparable.
I'm just thinking an individual homeowner and even a store owner that just has a normal front is so different from a half
Size
mile.
of the property.
Yeah, that we could treat it differently.
Have the other offers been accepted?
None of the easements have been signed. The offer letters have been accepted. So again, not an attorney. I don't know whether that really binds you to sign the easement documents. But none of the easement documents have been signed and then filed with the county.
Other questions or discussion?
I'm still not in favor of this. Just so you know.
Not
I
in
voted yes on the last one. I'll be voting no on this one. I just I think we're opening up a can of worms, and I just think they have a lack of creativity, because all of these business owners along there have struggled, I bet, the past couple months. This is not easy on anybody. And here we have an organization with county ties all over the place, and they can't raise funds from their donors to cover this, one time and then maybe on some ongoing costs of maintenance.
But Bethany, understand, I'm assuming it's the eminent domain that was in the other one that got it voted down. I'm looking for something to pass.
Yep,
without.
I get it. I'm explaining. I guess I'm just explaining my position why I'm voting against it.
I agree with you 100%.
And I would probably vote, or most likely vote yes this time, because the eminent domain was a concern for me. Okay. That again is a no-win situation for all. Were I doing it, and if I would have put a motion out, I might have gone a little lower, just to say whether 18,000 or, but that's just me. I'm kind of cheap, so frugal.
All right. Anybody else on the council that would like to speak, raise your hand, because otherwise we'll start that 20-second timer.
I think I don't want to belabor this any farther, because as you all know, I voted no last time just to get rid of the whole project. So I struggle back and forth. But the question is, if we vote for a 5-foot, our only option is eminent domain. The Fair Board is not going to go. They're not going to sell us the land if we put a 5-foot, correct? Is that my understanding? Is that correct? And they're trying to force us into an 8-foot. So their only option is for us to give them money so they can do it. If we force them to a 5-foot, they're not going to sell, and we have to take the land to put a 5-foot.
I think that's a safe presumption, Councilor Gowdy. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know that that's ever been said to me in our negotiations is that they wouldn't accept a 5-foot. They continue to emphasize that they prefer the 8-foot for the ease of maintenance using a larger truck, tractor, something of a larger size than an ATV or a snowblower.
I just wanted to make that clear in my mind because I've never advocated for eminent domain. I don't believe in it. I never have. So that's just my preference. And I was hoping tonight we could come to some type of an agreement. The only thing that I can see that we can agree on with the Fair Board is to put in an 8-foot, pay for the equipment, and let them do it. So if we're not willing to do that, and I would have loved to have the county come up and say, okay, we'll buy the equipment and have volunteers from the Fair Board plow it. So our cost is the difference between 5 and 8 foot. So if that's what it takes to get it done, then I'm in favor of that, but I will not vote for eminent domain. That's just my preference. I'm sorry that it doesn't get the thing built, because it's just too long. 12 years is, I agree with everybody else. We have to make a decision. Although you also have to realize there's going to be some type of repercussion from us doing that. Although it is fair to say that they have a lot more sidewalk than anybody else, but it's not an easy decision either way. So I'm done.
Okay. Anybody else? Hand up. Otherwise, mute the phone, or unmute.
Everything's unmuted.
Okay. Back on mute.
Muted. Unmuted.
Roll call.
This is on a 5-foot sidewalk with
And
the easement at $21,000.
right.
Isom,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
No.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
No.
Hoop.
No.
Motion failed.
I'm gonna keep trying until we get out of here tonight.
I think we're back to the point of, I would put it out there, do you want to delay a counteroffer until the June 22nd meeting?
No.
And we can bring back the memo that had all of the other options in it that involved not doing something on fairground property.
Your Honor, I want a motion tonight from somebody that we can all agree on. I don't want to add another 2 weeks to 12 years. So somebody please make a motion we can all agree on.
I have a suggestion, and that is that 2 council members get together with one of the county board of supervisors, one of the board members, and one of the county or the fair board and the sheriff's office, whoever runs that facility.
It's actually the Department of Corrections, I believe.
Oh, that's probably right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, it'd be nice to visit with them too if we could. Anyway, just my opinion. That's what I would say. Have a talk. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to be there and talk, listen.
So one of the things that I think is important to bring up, because he's not here in the room, is Councilmember Martin has basically been doing that since the last meeting. And so I don't want it to seem like those conversations haven't happened or that there hasn't been a council member who is trying to make those inroads specifically with Fair Board members, understanding their concerns, as well as with the county supervisors. And so Councilmember Martin has been doing that basically since February. The only party not involved was the Department of Corrections.
What do you think, Mr. Martin?
Well, I had a short but cordial meeting, probably 6 weeks ago, I'm guessing, maybe not that long ago, with at least 4 board members. I was by myself, expressed the idea of continuing to talk and to adjust, to collaborate on a real important project that had far-reaching consequences with regard to public safety and accessibility. They accepted that, so on. I encouraged them to talk further with city officials, with others who had a vested interest in the Fair Board and their activities. Again, I come back and I say it was very cordial, very businesslike. No commitments. I asked for no commitments at that time, but just to keep the discussion open.
Well, we're not getting any younger, and for 12 years we've been struggling with this. If Mr. Martin is willing to continue that dialogue, and Ms. Weirin might want to help do that too, whether it involves the Department of Corrections or not, maybe there's still some middle ground to get this done. But I don't see anybody stepping forward to the mic to make yet another motion tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody wants to.
I'm thinking about it, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I would like to make a motion that we, let me get back to that we construct an 8-foot wide path and that we offer the fairgrounds an easement of $20,000, and they would care for the property and do the snow removal.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Does anybody feel the need for more discussion? We haven't had anybody weigh in on other 20-second time intervals, so I'm going to skip it this time. Let's take the roll.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
No.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
No.
pardon,
I'm sorry. No.
Hoop,
No.
Isom,
No.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion failed.
All right, there's one more opportunity for anybody else to make a motion.
Can I ask a counselor question?
You may.
Counselor Isom, could you specify, I thought that your concern was the pricing. Now, because you had voted yes on the initial, and where are you at now? I mean, you had asked, I know you were frustrated with it. And
I strictly want a 5-foot sidewalk. The easement price is the easement price as already put in place. And that's what I'm good with.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Your Honor, can that same question be asked of the other counselors that voted no each time? What it is that gets them to vote yes?
It's not it's a kind of an ugly process to start doing that at a meeting like this, but on this issue after a dozen years, why not?
I think you know my position.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah.
No money, no eminent domain. Pretty simple.
I think my input would be if, I don't, I think where I was hung up was eminent domain. To cure that would be obviously if to figure out a way to get the Fair Board to accept the 5-foot sidewalk. Now, what is it gonna take for the Fair Board to say yes to a 5-foot sidewalk? It's obviously we either buy them equipment or we do it ourselves.
But we tried that, and it
And,
got voted down. We tried 5-foot sidewalk, increased the amount of money. We countered their counter with more money.
Well, I think the hangup is who's gonna do it? Who's gonna actually do the work
They're willing to do the work.
if it's 8 foot? The trick is to get them to agree on the 5 foot and do the work. Now, is the guy gonna take us to buy him a piece of equipment that can do a 5-foot sidewalk?
I guess all we're doing is proposing a counter offer to them to come back and say,
I think their hangup is who's gonna do it.
I read their offer stating the fact that their equipment that they have on hand doesn't meet the needs to be able to clear the sidewalk, which means they're going to be purchasing a new piece of equipment regardless. And that being said, there's equipment that is available for purchase that plows 5-foot sidewalks, not 8-foot sidewalks. So that's where I'm kind of confused because there's no details in their offer that outline the due diligence required from an offer of sorts that is, for lack of better terms, not specific at all. And there's equipment that can be purchased that takes care of 5-foot sidewalks. So I don't understand how that's a hang-up and how that's a justification or reasoning from their board to decline a conversation around a 5-foot sidewalk. That's why I'm confused.
Wouldn't it be to our benefit to get somebody here that can make that decision?
well, I can speak from experience that it's a bike path in front of my old business, and Park and Rec came down that with a little tractor with a cab on it with a brush. And they made 2 passes to clear the 8-foot wide bike path on Merle Hibbs. So I guess our counteroffer is not saying they have to buy one vehicle or another. We're giving them money, and if they want to go to the county then and get more money, that's up to them. But I gotta believe the cost of us putting a half mile of 3-foot wider sidewalk was more than the $9,000 I added to the first thing I proposed was a 5-foot sidewalk and $21,000 was probably a better deal for us than putting an 8-foot in. And like Gabe said, they can go out and buy whatever they want. Now, let's look behind the scenes. I agree with Councilperson Weirin. She has some, if I'm putting words in her mouth, I'm sorry, but she has some speculation that, well, of course they want a pickup because a pickup for the fair board's a better vehicle for them to use for other things besides plowing an 8-foot sidewalk. And in buying a tractor with a brush and a cab doesn't give them the flexibility. They want us to buy them a piece of equipment they can run errands with and do haul gravel with and do other things with. I was trying to get something out there. It's like, let's throw them some more money. You go out and buy what you want. You go out and buy 2 guys with snow shovels. I don't care. Let's put this to bed. The agreement is 5-foot. It also keeps us down the road from someone 8 years from now when we're all gone and saying, well, here's an 8-foot wide path that the city's not plowing. It's a bike path. How did the fair board ever get involved in plowing this? And I know Jessica said that there'd be an agreement, but we found that out. The agreement with the tennis courts didn't work out so well. And no offense. I'm just saying people have short memories. So that's why I threw out the 5-foot, increase the amount of money. They go out and buy whatever they want and be done with it. And if they don't want to do it, they come back to us. Eventually, either we pony up all the money they want, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be blackmailed to buy everybody a piece of equipment, But I understand. I'm willing to give them more money for 5-foot easement than us pay to put an 8-foot sidewalk for half a mile. We'd have to get numbers, but I got to believe that it's going to cost us more than $9,000 to put 3 more feet of square footage in, lineal feet.
Oh, obviously, yeah, obviously.
So that's why I was shocked. I have to be honest. I was shocked that was voted down. Because we're not forcing them. We're still moving forward. We're giving them something to come back to us with.
And that was, if I can interject, that was the reason why I asked Justin if that was their stance.
Well, their stance is they want a pickup to plow it with.
Well,
that's my belief.
Yeah.
They want a pickup because a pickup is more versatile.
Well, true, but the reason they were trying to force us into an 8-foot sidewalk is so we had to do it. Their option was, okay, we'll do it. You furnish the equipment. Right. I see where you're going, but I'm not going to use eminent domain for them to put a 5-foot sidewalk.
So there was my mistake on the first motion that it include eminent domain if they refused it. So I took that out on the revised motion and it still got voted down. So can I bring that motion back up with the agreement of everybody and parliamentary procedure and everything? 5-foot, 21,000?
I'm okay.
Sounds good.
Was that a second, Bethany?
Yeah.
So our counter offer to their counter is a 5-foot sidewalk. We pay them $21,000 for the easement. And now they can come back, now, if Bethany and Bill want to go talk to them and get the county involved and come up with the shortcoming for this high-priced piece of equipment they want, I'm okay with that. But I just want to keep us moving forward rather than telling the public we can't make a decision after 12 years.
Your Honor.
Bill?
I really see the need for the completion of this, one way or the other. I have 2 major obstacles, and I agree with some other counselors on this. I do not like the dollar transfer. It sets an awful precedent, and maybe an illegal precedent. And then I don't like the idea, and I don't think any of us do, of eminent domain. Although that's always in the picture, that could be left out. That's basically what I have to offer, and I'm down to my bare bones.
Well, let's vote on this one.
So the motion is for a 5-foot wide sidewalk with a purchase price for the easement of $21,000.
Right.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
No.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-2.
There is a God. Let's go on to the next item.
We have a request by Councilmember Hoop.
Here's another item that's been hanging out there forever. We got all these things that we never settle on, we never get done. And this is one of them. And I was opposed to this early on, but we got to get done with some of these things. They got to go away. So I would like to make a motion to direct staff to proceed with this land transfer. Simple as that.
Second.
Discussion.
And for clarification, this is the Anson Park for Bicentennial.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I was just going to say, to clarify, a portion of Anson Park
Yeah.
that basically sort of lines up with the parking lot that we're currently leasing to the school district, down to the southern property line, which does include the ball field.
so my question is, and I want to make sure I understand this. This is to resolve the property ownership issue with the George family. I'm sorry, that's a no?
Well, that's the property that has been involved in the.
So
discussed
there is no litigation that is pending at this point. It was dismissed by the court. Every record that we have, every record that the county has shows that we are owners of the property. And so I am taking Councilmember Hoop's motion to mean that this is transferring everything that we own that had been subject to prior legal question, to transfer that to the school district in exchange for Bicentennial,
Right.
the soccer fields.
I took it the same way, but then for those of us that have been talking about, that litigation and what parcel that is the area that we're talking about. Right. I haven't heard if there was a second, I missed it.
Bethany?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. There's been a second. Any other discussion about it?
I'd ask to wait for a vote till Councilmember Cahill comes back.
Oh, sorry.
So my question, Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
is the property that has been in dispute and allegedly owned by the city is going to be included in this transfer. Is that correct?
Yes,
It is.
it is.
Okay.
Might look better to, unmute it for 20 seconds, and by then, Ms. Cahill will have returned.
All the lines are unmuted.
Okay, I think we hit our 20 seconds on public comment.
Muted. Unmuted.
Let's call the roll on this one to trade the property between the school and the school district and the city.
So the motion was to direct staff to proceed with the land transfer for all of the portion of Hanson Park the city owns for bicentennial. Cahill?
Yes.
Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
Weirin?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-2.
Okay, the staff has its direction, thank you. On to the next one, which is item 4, which is the for year 21 proposed borrowing.
Yes, so at our last meeting, we brought forward the list of the things that we had been looking at for borrowing in this next fiscal year with some changes. And there were really 2 items to focus on moving forward and what those kind of did to the overall cost of the project. And so the first one that has a few options with it that we want to talk about further was the storm sewer project on 4th Street and Meadow Lane. And so there were 3 phases that the engineers broke this down into, and those cost estimates and maps are in your packet, so you can kind of see where things are. Option 1 really is doing all the work, and that would be $3.3 million effectively. The second option would really be doing just phase 1 only at this point and borrowing for only phase 1, which was about $2.3 million. As Justin looked at it and I looked at it, phase 2 and 3 are certainly important to the project and to the drainage of that basin, that area. And those 2 projects together total $1 million. However, they are truly the offshoots. Columbus Drive and Crestview, those are offshoots of what the main project would be on South 4th Street going up to Meadow Lane. So it's not 100% necessary to do it. That means that there still would be a project that would need to be completed at a future date and could be put into future capital improvement plans for consideration as things were being considered each year in the budget process. So you do have 2 options there, which are about $1 million in difference and would greatly impact sort of what we'd be looking to borrow in total. One of the things I do want to note, in the last meeting, we did have $3.5 million listed for the Meadow Lane project as that bigger cost of doing all the phases at once. With this, taking it down to 3.3 did adjust things down just slightly to a total of just about $8.4 million total. Moving on to the next area where there were some options, the fire trucks. And so what was initially included in the capital improvement plan was purchasing 2 trucks at once, making the down payments basically and prepaying for both of those at once, which would require a cost of $1.1 million in bond funds to make that happen. If you purchase the ladder truck only, that would use our cash on hand and still require $565,000 to be borrowed. If you want to still do the 2 trucks, there's kind of 2 different options that you have. You could still prepay for the ladder truck, immediately when you place the order after July 1st. And then you could also order the pumper truck, but just not do an early payment discount on it, basically. And so you would pay for the full cost of that with no discount when you received it, which would require you to still borrow funds in fiscal year 22. Option 4 is also similar in that it would be prepaying for the chassis only on both vehicles. And so you would still have, this one also then moves around some of the different funds on hand to offset kind of what would need to be borrowed in each year. So the thing that I do want to draw your attention to is that total borrowed column. So when you start mixing things up with option 3 and option 4, and when you pay for something and when you don't, it costs you more because you're losing those discounts. And so that's the thing to point out, is that when you get those prepayment discounts up front, you get them, and that does keep the total cost lower and keep what we need to borrow lower because we're recognizing those. 2 other projects that I just wanted to have a quick little mention of and for your discussion. Trail replacement, we look at this as being something very similar to how we look at it as streets. We have more street needs than we will ever have cash on hand for or be able to borrow at once for. And so very much like with the trail system, that there would be a prioritization of what $250,000 could cover to cover the most needed, the sections that needed most repair. However, we can't really say this is the scope of work at this point in time, that ultimately we're basically putting a budget out there for you to consider. So. And then finally, with the conversation that was had at the last meeting in trying to preserve the council designated local option sales tax for other uses, the smallest project that was on this list was a planning study for kind of what I would consider phase 2 of the downtown master planning. And really I bumped that down to about $100,000, changed the scope so it's not getting plans and specs that we can put out to bid, but getting more design level things for consideration. And so if that would be something that you would want to remove from the list completely and designate that local option sales tax could be used for it, then it could come off the list. So with that in mind, we are open to where you would like to go on this.
Your Honor, I have a question about the 4th Street and Meadow Lane.
Question away.
Wondering if those residents will they see an improvement if we only do phase 1 and push off phases 2 and 3? They've been living with this for a lot of years.
I think the short answer is yes, you would certainly see an improvement along 4th Street. As Jessica mentioned, if you want to think of it like a tree, the branch of Columbus and Crestview would not see an improvement at this time, but probably has less of a problem than the main trunk line that is along 4th Street.
Okay.
Other
Thank you.
questions or directions for staff?
Oh, the only other thing I wanted to say was about the fire trucks, so you're good. The discount is worth it. We should take advantage of the discount, I think. I don't think it makes sense to do it the other way.
Others?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I guess I would agree on the fire trucks with Bethany on the purchase of those, the prepayment, based on what that looks like from a savings perspective of doing it now. If we're going to be spending the money now versus down the road, we might as well save the additional $130,000 plus. As for 4th Street and Meadow Lane, I guess I could get convinced one way or the other, whether it be phase 1 and or phase 1 through 3. I guess that's probably more of a discussion as far as the total dollar amount that people are comfortable with, since it's a $1 million discrepancy. Not discrepancy, but variance. And I guess as for the other projects, as a frequent trail user, I would agree there's some definitely areas that need some replacement, and so I'm in favor of continuing to include that. Same as with street repair in town. The infrastructure that we have in place, we need to continue to maintain prior to it being unusable. And downtown, obviously, is still in recovery. Whether that's funded through lost or otherwise doesn't matter to me. I think it's a necessary step to continue the progression of what downtown's in progress of becoming, which is something that is beyond what it has been and will be amazing down the road. So I think that's a necessary step in the right direction.
Thanks for that input. Anyone else?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I think, this is just my personal, I think the library's making a huge mistake in not wanting to proceed with their addition. I think with the distancing requirements, you know, I understand they're going to have a fundraising issue for the rest of the proceeds, but I guess I'd like to see us, you know, step up and say we're still willing to put the $500,000 towards their addition. But to break back even, I would take out the railroad crossing safety improvements. We can discuss that later. I mean, we lived with trains ever since this town was founded. I guess on the other issues, I'm 100% with what's already been said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to recap, the only one item that I didn't touch on that Gary I thought touched on, and what I said last meeting, I would be in favor of delaying the crossing safety improvements for some of the priority, in my opinion, of some of the other expenditures that we have currently in front of us. That being said, I still want to see that done.
Yeah.
Other directions of staff?
I would not like to delay the crossing safety improvements. I think we're finally in the right position to get it done. And I would just delay that second and third phase, the second and third phases of the storm sewer project and the library addition. I think that could wait another year or two. I don't think that's as urgent as some of these others.
Others?
Your Honor, just an input on clarification on the 4th and Meadow Lane, only because I live in that area, and I think that's correct on doing the option 1. I questioned Justin at the last meeting just for some clarification, and once I saw the map with the packet, indeed those two streets have been. Justin's correct, and I wasn't quite sure whether it's 4 or 5 years or whatever, but those two streets have been mill and overlaid, and it was shortly after they redid the Catholic school and over in that area, and so I'd be in favor of splitting this and getting that main phase 1 done. And revisit that next year, because of those streets have just recently been mill and overlaid, and although I'm sure that the drainage needs to be improved, but that could wait until we have the main one done. And the question was, I believe when that's done on Meadow Lane, that's going to relieve some of that pressure of drainage to the south, and which we have problems in that area from Meadow Lane south, and this will alleviate some of that water and get it to where it's intended to go, down north. So on the fire trucks, I also agree that at 2% interest, if we can maintain that, I don't see any reason to delay and spend an extra 100 and some thousand to prolong that. The only other input, some of them are pretty cut and dried that we've hashed over. The railroad crossing, it's kind of a split, only because I know that the residents in the new addition on Washington are going to probably be tickled to death to see that go through, but whether we need to do that at this time would be a question, or the timing for next year. I could see where that could be put off, only because of the time frame that's going to take to get those housing units put together. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in?
So I guess I'll ask a question. Does it make sense to propose as laid out in the FY21 revised column, outside of the fact that we would be doing phase 1 only of the 4th Street and Meadow Lane storm sewer?
That's what I would propose.
Okay, please say that again.
FY21 revised column, outside of revising the 4th and Meadow Lane storm sewer to the option 2, which would be phase 1 only for FY21 originally.
FY21, all the numbers except replace the 3.3 with the 2.65.
It's 2.3 something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
2.263.
Okay.
Diana?
Hi, Diana Steiner, Finance Director. I did kind of want to go over the other sheet that's with this. Spear Financial worked these numbers up. These are just an estimate. So we looked at borrowing 10 million, which makes up the 11B bond that we were going to refund, and then the Lane Storm Sewer for $3.6 million, because that's the number I gave her before. So those payments, the storm sewer, comes out of the enterprise fund. So I just want you to be aware of that when you're looking at option 1 and 2. That's not coming out of your debt service levy. That's being paid out of the enterprise fund. So this, on this sheet, real quickly, this just shows your new principal borrowing $10 million. Your interest is $1.3 million over the course of the life of the loan. So overall, it's $11.3 million. So then this is our current, what we currently owe is $37 million. That's outstanding. So if you kind of come over here, up here, this kind of shows you your local option sales tax revenue. So we talked about last time how that was going to be reduced, but then you kicked in your cash flow reserve. So if you were to look at, let me get rid of this, move this over somehow. Sorry, I'm not pulling that over to the other page. Can you, so that go-to meeting?
It's showing on the screen.
Oh, okay.
It's just, that's in front of
Okay,
it,
all right.
on your screen.
Okay. So we made some assumptions. So here are the assumptions down here. So for fiscal year 21, our bond payments to the new borrowing will be paid from the storm sewer water and the debt service fund balance. So we have that covered for fiscal year 21. We're assuming there's going to be a 2% growth in property tax valuations. Last year, there was a 2.9% growth. So we're a little conservative on that. For fiscal year 22, the local option sales tax will return to 75% of the revenue collections originally projected, and no cash reserve or council designated loss is added. And then for fiscal year 23 forward, local option sales tax will return to 100%. So there's a lot of assumptions going into this, but you know, it does play into your debt service when we do our budget for property taxes. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Since you were discussing the stormwater, that's coming out of the enterprise fund, does not relate to the property tax levy. Do you have any questions on this sheet?
Questions for Dana?
Spear Financial recently did a bond sale in Waterloo, and they got an interest rate of like 1.25%. So interest rates are really great right now. Yeah. And they have not seen any change in anyone's bond rating either yet. So just wanted to give you that information.
Thank you.
Diana, so whether we do phase 1 or phase 1 through 3 on the stormwater project, then does that have an impact on our overall debt capacity, or that has no implications with regards to our borrowing?
Your debt levy?
Yeah.
Your debt levy, it would not affect that.
Okay.
But your borrowing, you can borrow $10 million a year that's tax exempt. So that's kind of why we rounded it up to 10 million. Yeah.
So you're saying we could have our cake and eat it too? We could do the whole storm sewer project and these other things in?
Well, for the new projects that aren't the stormwater, it is going to have an effect on the debt service levy. You know, she's projecting $2.10. You were at $1.07 this year. Well, for next fiscal year.
That was the total. That was the total.
That was just for the debt levy.
Yeah.
Because we bought it down.
Yep.
So you'd have to kick in, you know, another $950,000 to keep it at $1.07, just looking at the debt levy.
And remind us, what did that restructuring of that one debt, what did that save you?
That was about $24,000.
That was an assumed 1.9% interest rate too.
That's already factored in.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
I would say just the guidance that you've given here is good. Ultimately, there's one more meeting that we'll bring this back to on the 22nd. The way it would work is that your public hearings would then be on the council agenda you'd be resolutions to set public hearings on the council agenda for that first meeting in July. And so we'll bring it back to you one more time on the 22nd to just make sure that is what you would like to proceed with before we close up the conversation and move it back to our financial advisors and attorney to start those proceedings.
It seems like you got a feeling of the consensus here about which way to go.
I would say we got consensus on some items, and I think there was some things, but I think there's still some that it seems like you're going to want to talk about a little bit more. So the next meeting will be the one to do that.
Okay. Well, let's go to one of my favorite topics, which is compost.
Oh, sorry. Is that real? Were you kidding?
No.
Okay.
I love the compost.
Sorry.
I was the Sunday afternoon guy.
Well, it was fees.
So I'll just introduce these next items because on the June 22nd agenda, you will have a resolution that basically says these are all of our fees as of July 1st. And so as staff was looking at what those fees currently are, that there was some things that they thought could be adjusted, that these are not huge things that would have an impact like the parking fees that we talked about during the budget process, but little things that we thought that could be more in line. And so I think starting with compost is Justin, I believe.
I still complain every time I go that, hey, I bought these bags at a higher rate and now I'm paying to bring it back there, but I'm reminded that the city needs the money and it's a nicely run compost.
It is a operation that runs in a deficit year after year. So inside your packet, there is a proposal for an update on the compost fee. I think they're pretty modest, about a 10% increase mostly. As I've discussed with you in the past, I think we have a lot of tree contractors that know that it's a great deal to bring their things here. So staff and myself specifically targeted larger vehicles, dump trucks, trailers, things like that are bringing fees. And again, still comparable to the rest at about a 10% increase. So if you would have any objections, please let me know now, or you can feel free to email me throughout the week. But as Jessica said, they'll be back for approval at our next meeting.
Okay, thanks. Michelle, do you want to take the next one, fee changes for planning and zoning?
Yes, Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development. We have a couple of items in our planning and zoning realm that we thought needed some adjustment or even new fees in some cases. To bring in line, the first one, the home occupation special use permit, we had previously had that $50. We are proposing an increase to $150. That brings it in line with the variance request for homeowners as well. So they both go through the same process and with public hearing and Board of Adjustment. So we felt that those should be in line with each other. We don't currently have a fee for a home occupation to just register if they're doing a home business, and it does take staff time to process those requests, and so we proposed a $50 fee for that. And then we get zoning confirmation requests for when people are trying to acquire properties. A lot of the times, especially our commercial, industrial, multifamily type of projects, they often have a list of 20 different questions they need answered and researching, and so those can take some considerable time. We've never charged a fee for those things. Many communities do, and so that's where we're proposing a fee for that service. And then for single family, a $25 fee for that. Those are usually a lot easier to do and less time consuming for staff. And then our final one is a plan unit development amendment. Again, kind of based on the fact that they do go before a planning commission, come before council, there's a lot of staff time that gets involved in that preparation. So an increase of that to $200.
Any objections, questions, or comments? Okay, you can email them if you think of them later. And finally, number 7, parking ticket collection fee change.
I can talk about this one. Sure. In our past program, we were able to assess a collection fee per account. The new system we're using is Tyler Technologies Encode Court, and they use a violation. So we are asking the council to forego a $15 per account collection fee for a $5 per ticket fee. And that would be for the number of people that don't pay the parking tickets that you're issuing.
So
do you have any questions?
They're assessing us fees for sorry.
So
Go ahead.
when you don't pay a parking ticket and it goes into collection status, we're asking that we add a $5 collection fee to handle the staff time to build the files that need to go up to the collection for offset or for DMV hold.
And the $15 fee is what?
It
That's
used
what
to
I
be
missed.
it used to be a per account fee, collection fee per year. And it's just too time consuming to hunt and peck individuals in this parking system because you can't do it. You have to put the fee on the ticket, and by doing it programmatically, we can just say all tickets that are over a year old or over 2 years old, over 3 years old, they get a $5 ticket, another $5 fee.
I think the thing to clarify is it's an annual fee, so it's not every month or anything. There's another $5 added on.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Are there any other questions? Concerns, comments?
No? Good. I don't think we need public discussion on this one either. I noticed that we're down to 4 non-staff people still hanging in there with us. I'll bet they're watching TV instead, really. Let's go on to public comment then. And I have to read this again. Members of the public may make comments on any item that is not on the agenda during this time. You have to approach the mic, state your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Unless I authorize more, that's not going to happen tonight. The speaker shall direct comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and we may then, we are not to engage in discussion or debate on items raised by the members of the public, and no action items on those items may be taken, else we will offend the open meetings laws. Does anybody wish to make any public comment?
Lines are unmuted.
Lines are unmuted. Let's give them, was it Anna that says it should be 20 seconds?
While we're waiting, I would just want to encourage everybody to fill out their census form if you haven't already. There is a challenge put out by the governor of Iowa and Adam Gregg and Paul Pate to make sure that we have all of our census stuff. If we beat our last year's response rate by 10%, we can have a nice plaque in the governor's office. So.
We get a
All right.
pizza party or
Maybe
something.
we get a pizza party. I'd like that.
Hey, we have to pay for it, but, you know, it's a plaque. It's 8:08. We are adjourned. Thanks for coming.
Muted. Unmuted.
Do you want to hang up?